Continuing this series on how we build character in children. And I'd like to remind you again, what I'm doing is not so much describing the virtues that are in the Aristotelian set of virtues, but rather to say, how can they be developed in children? We do start with models, great models, but what a model, in this case, I'm going to talk about justice, what a model of justice is, and what a child needs to do to learn to be just or to be righteous is quite different. And we have our great models. We have civil rights leaders in our country, across the globe, who have struggled to do the right thing, to do the just thing. And they've paid a price. And we appreciate them. We hold them up as heroes because they've done the thing. They've taken the initiative to do what they needed to do, to assume the responsibility for some sense of injustice, something that wasn't being done right, and they wanted to right it. And they were willing to pay whatever price was necessary. Well, now let's talk about that same kind of justice when we're talking about children. The call to be right, the call to do the right thing, the call to be just, sort of equating being right, righteousness, and being just. So when we're working with children and we want to build up this habit, we really start with this dynamic between responsibility and doing what's right, which means carry out your responsibility. So at one level with children, it starts with the things that you're supposed to do. When you're 7, 8, 9, 10, 14 years old, you have, as a member of the family, as a person at school, as someone on your team, you have responsibilities to that family, to that home, to that classroom, to that team. You have responsibilities. And justice is being right toward those responsibilities. I often will talk to my students addressing misbehavior in the classroom, that I'm not addressing their behavior. I'm addressing you are not aware of who you should be and how you should behave in this environment. You see, to understand how you're going to be just, you have to understand what are your responsibilities, so that in any environment, you're asking yourself, who should I be and how should I behave? Then in all the different circumstances you find themselves, sometimes you're a leader, sometimes you're a follower, sometimes you should be quiet and learn, sometimes you should take the step to participate. But in all these things, you're weighing, what are my responsibilities? And when we do this on a small scale at home, what is a child's responsibility to brothers and sisters? What is a child's responsibility to mom and dad? What is a child's responsibility when grandma and grandpa come visiting? They have responsibilities. They can't just do whatever they want, whenever they want. In fact, that aspect of our culture is very upsetting to me, because I can see we're going to be wanting social warriors, social justice warriors at a later date, when we're really going to need them. And what we've got are selfish little children. So there's a pathway of learning to take on responsibility on a very concrete level in your home, on your basketball team, when you're hanging out with friends, your school responsibilities. As a child embraces responsibilities, does not shirk them for their own pleasures, but begins to learn, I have to make decisions. And I have to do what is right. And sometimes I don't like it. I don't want to do what I don't want to do. That's why we fight with our children so often. They don't want to do the things they're supposed to. But we have to persevere as teachers, as parents, say there's certain things, you like it, you don't like it, they are your responsibility. And it is these lessons on how to treat your family members, on how to be at school, that can blossom into bigger spheres where children begin to recognize greater needs, greater arenas for them to exercise their responsibility. And then they understand the characteristics that it takes, the perseverance that it takes, the going against one's personal interest in order to take care of responsibility. But it's a habit that's built up over time, because we teach children to understand and embrace their responsibilities and then do the right thing according to that. Be just. And in this way, we create justice in children. We create their pathway of how to be a just person so they can go out into the world. And we're not learning doctrines about how to be just. Rather, we've cultivated children who have exercised justice, have exercised how they can be right with any social setting that they find themselves in. It's a tough job, but I think you can recognize this is exactly what our children need. Start early. Start early to be aware of your responsibilities and then to carry them out, to be just towards your responsibilities, just toward the people around you, and eventually that will expand. One more thing, I recently finished a wonderful biography of Frederick Douglass. And what I was most impressed by, of course, he was a marvelous civil rights leader in the 19th century, but the way he took care of his family. You know, he had an extended family, and he wasn't a wealthy man. He made most of his money being supported by others to be at the forefront of the civil rights movement in his day. Yet he took such careful care of his children, his spouse, his extended family. And I thought, no wonder he could assume the righteousness, the righteous stand of the civil rights movement through the whole second half of the 19th century. He himself was a just man, and therefore he understood the price that had to be paid to fulfill his responsibilities. I hope this is helpful, and I hope you can apply this in various ways with your own children or with your students.